Hello, how's it going? I'm Maya and welcome to my garden in southwest of Ireland. So it's the 2nd of May bank holiday here in Ireland, the May Day. So from now onwards, everything is going to change really quickly, really drastically. All the growth is coming in, the hedges are filling. It's so green and there's some things already flowering. There's berries appearing, so it is time for garden tour. Starting with the front of the house, I have not shown you this border for a long time, but it's just to show you how it looks like now in spring. So the only ones really growing at the moment are the hellebores here. And then if you're wondering what's with all these sticks, is really truly because my dog, yes, you, has been using some of these areas as his daybed. So he has a good view at the gates from here, and he's been loving to sleep on it, but he's also been sleeping on the fresh hosta shoots, so I've had to just put the sticks around it so he doesn't do any more damage, because obviously the plants can't grow if there's such a weight on top of them, and he just ended up breaking a lot of the new shoots off. But then there's few hydrangeas, and then there's ferns that are still to come, and obviously the climbing rose, which is doing really well, and it's all tied in here. Up the drive, what has really been a success and has brought so much joy to us, and definitely to be repeated next spring, has been the front entrance with the tulips. Now there are a lot of deadheading to be done, because they actually stayed fresh so long, I think because it was so dry. So at the moment now the rains obviously have weighed the flower heads down, but azaleas are starting to come to bloom now, and also these tulips have opened, and they're absolutely delicious. They're beautiful pale pink coming into this kind of a creamy tone, absolutely beautiful. But yeah, just even the Japanese maple, the leaves are starting to come out, and then the scent from skimmia, which is like just the lily of the valley scent, is beautiful, and the bees love it. They're always around here, and obviously the heathers are flowering away like they always do. You can also see how the hedges are filling in, and it's just such a beautiful fresh colour. And we do have visitors. I'll just try to do very slow, and hopefully it will zoom in. So the house martins are back, and what is more of a sign of a summer than swallows? But these are house martins, so they nest under the eaves of the buildings, and they build their houses out of mud. So they were very successful in here last year, and they've come back. Coming into the orchard, the cherry is blossoming beautifully. So this is obviously edible cherry. Beautiful red fruiting variety. And that's a big tree. Now we still haven't gotten a good harvest off it, because the birds just end up getting here before us, because the tree is just really, really big. It's well over 10 feet tall. And it's very difficult to net it. Now this is another cherry tree, and this also was a huge tree, but because it's more columnar in its shape, we were able to get a net over there last couple of years ago, and we had a bumper harvest of cherries then. But this one usually gets eaten by the birds. And we've also this spring added, this is a pear conference, but I've added another pear there. So that's a very young tree. And we have just a couple of blossoms here. They're beautiful. We don't get a big harvest out of any of these two plum trees because, again, the wildlife gets there before us, but also we have a pair of bullfinches that, as you see, what they tend to do. So I've left this tree now as a sacrificial tree. You have leaf buds here, and they go along and strip all the other shoots and growth. So if it's flower bud, if it's leaf bud, whatever it is, they take it. So you see how bare the branches are. And I've seen them, both the male and female, sitting on the tree, and they will just defoliate the tree as easily as that. You see how little leaf growth is on them, and that's the reason. It's because they just literally come and take off those little buds. Now I've also added another apple tree here and there. Now the rose garden is quite empty, but there's plenty of new shoots coming, and mullein is growing here as well. But what you see through the window actually is the ginger growing away very, very well. And I have a couple of chilies here, but they're sort of being separated from the rest of them because I think they have brown leaf spot on them. So I'm quarantining them in there at the moment. And then the climbing rose is just quietly growing away. This is such a hard working rose, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a stunner. And peonies, there's less leaf growth on the peonies now. I do believe it's probably just to do how cold it has been, and very, very dry. So yeah, there isn't that much growth on them at the moment, but they'll probably catch up again. But then the lavender, obviously, just absolutely full. Phlox and lupins, and again more roses there. Delphinums, all coming about. And then we have clematis. So the Montana, this give it another week or two, and the flowers are going to open. The same is here. You see the big juicy buds on this clematis, and they're so soft. They're like velvet. Beautiful. Now in this planter, what looks like there's tons of weeds. They're actually annual candy tuft. I have perennial ones here, and then these are annual ones, and they'll fill the planter really, really quickly for the summer. This herbaceous border is just bursting. That's what I just really, really like about these perennial plants. And the phlox here is just starting to flower. So the flowers aren't all fully open yet. And then what I had here was a bit of a surprise. This is the planter where I had potatoes last year, and all of a sudden I started to see little potato leaves popping up. So the only thing I can say is I think it's because somebody was digging around here in this planter last summer when the potatoes were growing, and they got displaced. And I know that I was being quite good going through the soil, but obviously not good enough. So there's plenty of potatoes popping up everywhere. Now the apple trees here blossoming away beautifully. And this is the Discovery apple that had fantastic apples on last year that I showed you, the red throughout inside as well. And herbaceous planting again underneath there. A gorgeous selection of tulips. And then I have planted out most of the brassicas that I had. So there's a mix of turnip and kale and swede. Then there's beetroot, onions, that kind of mix in this one. The Nepeta here is just about to burst into flower as well. So really looking forward to that, because this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful sight when it's all in full bloom and it's covered with bees, and then obviously later in the season also in butterflies. And I'll just show you here as well. So I have a thornless blackberry growing in here, and looks like there's going to be a good crop out of that. And then gooseberries, and they're also full of little fruit. So they're all doing really, really well here. Now back to here, obviously you've seen the garlic plenty of times. These planters will have carrots and parsnips and carrots in them. And these again have more kale, spinach. And these guys have, oh, these are actually where I put the swede. So, and there's more garlic in here as well. Now the difference in the raspberries, that half is all autumn fruiting raspberries, so they are only starting to put up the shoots now, as the summer fruiting one, like the blackberry, it already is developing its flowers, and looks again like a nice handy harvest. But let's go to here now. Ta-da! Now, because the greenhouse is a new growing space for me for this, from this season onwards, I'm still astonished how fast the growth is inside here, and I think it just shows how much of a struggle it is to grow outside in on a windy site, and being very, very exposed. So in here I just put in the fast growing crops until the tomatoes are going to be ready to be planted. So this is all going to be for tomatoes, cucumbers and basil. But at the moment what I have is radish in here, which we are harvesting already. They are French breakfast and they're absolutely delicious because they're still mild. Now they are going to be better to grow in a cooler climate, so they will not stick to these heat or these temperatures that the greenhouse is going to get to. So yeah, just keep harvesting. Now the rest what I have growing here then are salads, just around lettuce, so there, and everything is so clean and healthy, beautiful. And then I'd say in my own compost, because I have a lot of dill on the plot, and I would have composted the dill seed heads as well, so there's a lot of dill popping up as well, but I don't mind that. We do like dill in this household. And then on the shelving I've got some seedlings. There's cosmos, there's nasturtiums, there's a couple of extra tomato plants, a full pot of sunflowers that I haven't pricked out yet. I did some, but there was so many of them came out, and they were from my last year's own seed. By the looks of it, I didn't think any of them are going to germinate, and there you go, how wrong I was. Then I have my chilies here. So there are different varieties, and we even have a chili, beautiful purple one here, Buena Mulata. And if I slowly bring you around, these are the rest of the chilies. And I have all my tomato plants here ready. They've been actually days and nights here for weeks now. Peppers, oh sorry, the chilies I only brought here overnight a couple of days ago, so they are getting accustomed as well to the season. But these are the potatoes. So this is the second early Charlottes that I planted here in the pots 3 weeks ago. So loads of growth and healthy foliage. And if I just go and see from the video 2 weeks ago when I did the grow bags and pots and sort of comparison planting, this is the grow bag, and so this is planted 2 weeks ago, same thing, second early Charlotte, and there's loads of growth. So the chitting did help it along a lot. To the main crop, there's shoots up from here as well. So again, these were planted just 2 weeks ago, and that is Desiree. So they're the 4 pots that are here in the kitchen garden area, and I think I saw something in there as well. So in this pot, yeah, there's shoots coming up in here as well. You just see if the mound is coming up, and that's Cara. So again, there's leaves coming up and shoots coming up. Yeah, look, there's shoots in here as well from both varieties. As we're already talking about potatoes, I might as well come here onto the field and have a look. And 2 pots. So there's a shoot up from here, which is Cara, and there's a shoot up from Desiree here as well. So we have movement everywhere. Now, coming back to the greenhouse, just to see, there's cauliflower, cabbages. Cabbages weren't doing great now for me this year. The seeds, weren't doing well. So out of 6, I think I sowed, only 3 came up. But celeriac has done brilliantly. Zinnia next to it. And then these are the sunflowers that I did prick out from the pot. These are young strawberries. Again, there's sunflowers mixed in between them. But so I'm just letting these strawberries here to build themselves up a bit. I'm not going to harvest anything from them, any flower buds that are coming. I'll just snip them off, and I'll leave them put on their roots this year. Absolutely delighted with the growth in here, and I cannot leave the greenhouse without mentioning this, which my dear husband built me, which is a watering system. So it is just a spare water pipe and then a couple of fittings, and all it is really, it's the pipe then it got drilled through, and then it has a end here, feeds it the same way always around. And I think once the tomatoes are planted in, because tomato leaves don't want to get wet, I'd probably turn this whole thing upside down so that the sprinklers are actually facing the ground. But yeah, it works perfectly. I could leave it on for 5 minutes and I come back and it's done. Don't have to do any extra watering. So yeah, this is the quick garden tour done for you, and I'm just going to show you, as promised, a new sort of project that I'm working on, but I'm not going to rush with it because there's still some plants that are like cuttings and very young plants, and I'm going to take my time with this particular project. So what it is, it's the area in front of the house here, just to soften the sort of flow from the rose garden, kitchen garden onto the main fields. And what I'm trying to do here is a little bit of a permaculture style, but I'm going to mix in my own ideas with it. So I do have at the moment likes of there's eating and cooking apples. So there's apple here, but there's crab apple there, a bit hard to see probably. There's another apple tree here, but then there's a lot of hazelnuts, so cultivated hazels, like filbert and cobnuts that are there, and then I have plum trees. And again, that's what I meant about in the other orchard, as I'm leaving those plum trees as the sacrificial trees to keep the bullfinches to that side of the house. But at least in here I'll be able to keep a better eye on the trees themselves. And what I got this year, a couple of videos back, I did a reveal of what I had ordered, and what I've done. They're young plants, but I've fan trained them. Now they were a bit older than what you'd start the proper fan training from, but I think it will work. And the best time to do it is in spring, when the sap is all just rising and the branches are young, so that it's easier to sort of bend them. But again, you have to be quite delicate. You have to know when to stop bending it. So I've built them this kind of a structure out of bamboos around them, and I've done it with 2 of them, because these are Victorias, I believe. Yeah, Victoria plum. And yeah, I was able to sort of branch them out. Now this one had extra growth here, but it's fine. I'm just going to go with my gut instinct how to train that. And then there's another plum tree here, and you see the difference now. This is an older tree, older than these 2 were. These 2, the Victorias, I got them as bare roots, so they're young trees, very young trees. And this is a couple of years older, that was potted up, and you see how much growth is here, and these are rigid, so there's no way of trying to manipulate and bend these branches, and that's opal as a tree. So yeah, so when you think you'd want to do something similar, like espaliering apple trees or anything, you do want to start off with, or you do need to start off with quite young trees. To espalier an apple, this would be your most ideal starting point, but I don't need an espalier apple tree here on this field. I actually want it to become a standard tree. So in this case, you have 1 leader, and once you take the leader down, every one of these buds will start to want to become a new leader, and that's when you take the new growth, soft pliable wood, and you sort of bend them down to your framework. But yeah, so the idea is nearly to create herbaceous border underneath all these trees here. I'm not going to take it too far. There's a couple of more crabapple trees there, but I'm going to put likes of the lupins, the borage, edible flowers, maybe grasses. I'm going to just do my own sort of a mix in here. So that's my future project for this space. So this was it with the garden tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and even maybe if you got a little bit of inspiration from some of the things that you saw. But yeah, so looking forward to the month of May, and obviously then the summer ahead. So thanks a million for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.